Recently, I got a text message from my cousin and she requested a video on crispy fried catfish and spaghetti. This is gonna be good. So I'm gonna start by making the spaghetti sauce. I'm working with a pound of lean ground beef, half of a medium onion, 1 small bell pepper, 2 to 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. Here I have a cup of beef broth. I'm also working with 14 ounces of smoked sausage, 2 cloves of garlic, and I have a 24-ounce jar of marinara sauce. I'm going to just season and add flavor to taste, and I suggest you do the same. In a preheated pot, I'm adding my cooking oil, and I'm going to saute my onion and bell peppers. I'm also adding some salt, and I'm just going to saute this until the onions are translucent and the bell peppers have softened. Here, I'm going to add my pound of lean ground beef, and I'm going to start breaking that apart, and I'm going to cook this. I'm also going to add some all-purpose seasoning salt. You can add Lowry's, you can add just salt. Here I have some onion powder, and I'm just going to continue cooking and browning the ground beef. And now for my smoked beef sausage. That's going in, and I'm going to saute well. By the way, I am working with like a medium-high heat. Here I have my 2 heaping tablespoons of tomato paste. That's kind of why I say 2 to 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. And I'm just going to cook this, work this into the meat mixture for a couple of minutes. I sort of want the tomato paste to form a fond at the bottom of the pan. If I move this around, you can see some of the fond here, and I'm going to add my beef broth. I'm going to pour the jar of marinara sauce into the pot, and I'm also going to add just a little bit of water to the jar, and I'm going to shake it around and get any residual sauce out of the jar right into the pot. Now I'm going to stir and combine everything well, and at this point you can taste for salt, seasoning. What I'm going to do is add a teaspoon of sugar. I will say that's optional. Some people just don't do that, which is fine. But I like to add a little sugar, work that in, and you can let this simmer for about 15 minutes. You can go 30 to an hour. It just depends on the amount of time you have. But at this point, once it simmers for a good 15 to 20 minutes, it's done. Now I'm going to work on homemade cornbread. So here I already have 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of cornmeal. This is yellow cornmeal. I have a ½ cup of sugar. Yes, I'm making sweet cornbread today. I'm also adding 2 tablespoons of baking powder, a 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and this is fine salt. I'm just going to give all those ingredients a mix. By the way, I'm just working with a different ratio of flour to yellow cornmeal. If you want to scale back on the flour and have a higher ratio of cornmeal, you can do that. Instead of butter or cooking oil, I'm going with some rendered bacon fat. I love to add bacon fat into my cornbread. This was about 5 tablespoons of rendered bacon fat. Here I'm adding 2 large eggs, and I'm just going to start mixing this, and then I'm going to add around 1.5 cups to 2 cups of whole milk. You can definitely add buttermilk in place of the whole milk and mix until it looks like this. You'll have a nice cornbread batter. I'm going to bake this in a cast iron skillet that I already added a little more of that bacon fat. You can, again, add butter. And I'm going to pour this right into my cast iron skillet. This is around a 9 to 10 inch cast iron skillet, and I will be baking this cornbread at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 to 25 minutes or until the center is cooked. Okay, so this is going into my preheated oven. Now let's work on the catfish. Large bowl, I'm working with 2.5 to 3 pounds of catfish fillets, and I'm going to create a wet batter. Here I am going to add 2 large eggs into the bowl, and then I'm going to season well. Here I'm adding some onion powder. I'm going to also add some lemon pepper. This is salt-free, seasoned powder, garlic powder, and some Louisiana hot sauce. Now I'm going to add yellow mustard. I'm actually eyeballing a lot of this, but I will put a good starting point of an ingredient list with measurements for you for this if you want to try this method. Some people just make their catfish the way they want to. This is using the yellow mustard with egg method. Okay, so I'm going to give this a really good mix, combine well. Okay, so now I'm going to add my catfish fillets right into this wet batter, and I'm going to coat and combine everything well. Okay, so now on to the dry dredge. Here in a flat baking sheet pan that I have, and this is one of the smaller ones I have, I'm going to go with about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of yellow cornmeal. And you also want to add around a 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, like a 1/2 cup to a cup, but I do that later. Here I'm adding the seasoned salt. I'm going to add some onion powder. I'm going to add my lemon pepper. I'm also adding some garlic powder. I would say 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon of each of these to start and give it a good mix. Some of you might want things saltier, so add some table salt or sea salt to it. I'm going to mix this well, and like I said, I kind of forgot to add the all-purpose flour. I did it later at this point, but you'll want to add like a 1/2 cup to a cup of all-purpose flour. And this is the dredge. So my catfish is completely thawed, marinated in this mustard mix, and it's not really cold. That's another key thing when working with meat or fish. You want to make sure it's not frozen or super cold before you cook it. So I'm adding it to my dry dredge here, and I'm going to coat it well. You kind of want to coat it, pat it down, and shake it. And it's going into my preheated fry oil. You want to preheat your cooking oil to around 350 to 360 degrees Fahrenheit. And these larger pieces, I'm going to fry these for maybe 3 minutes or so on each side, or until they're cooked through. The cook time varies depending on how thick, small, or how the catfish fillets are cut. These smaller pieces won't take as long as the larger pieces. So I'm going to give these a flip and continue the process for all of my catfish. So my fish is fried to golden brown perfection. It's so crispy on the exterior and it's seasoned so well. But like I said, seasoning and salt is to preference. Someone might taste this and think it needs more salt. That is up to you. Okay, so now I am going to butter my already baked cornbread. It kind of got toasty on the edges, but that's okay. I'm going to add butter and a drizzle of honey. And this is done. So I'm going to add salt to a pot of boiling water, and I'm going to get ready to cook my pasta. But here, I'm going to start by heating and seasoning canned green beans with butter. I'm going to add seasonings. I added some onion powder here. I added some lemon pepper, crushed red pepper flakes, season how you like, and I drained 2 cans of green beans that are going in. I'm just going to saute these quickly, heat them through, and this is what I'm going to have as one of the sides. I'm adding 1 pound of spaghetti pasta into the pot. That was a fail. I'm going to quickly mix this and put it into the boiling pasta water, and I'm going to cook for about 9 to 10 minutes. My spaghetti sauce is done. I had it gently simmering, so now I'm just going to add all of my cooked pasta into the pot of spaghetti sauce, and I'm going to mix it. You can serve this as a topping on top of the spaghetti when you serve a plate, but I'm going to mix everything together. And I'm also going to add a handful of shredded cheese because I want this cheesy and mixed and flavorful. It's going to be good. Okay, so let me show you what this cornbread looks like, and I'm going to show you what a plate of dinner looks like today. My family is so excited to have this. Shout out to my cousin Christina. Love you. Thanks for the suggestion, and I hope you try this recipe because it's so good. So I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.